Good day to each and everyone. So now we will going to discuss our assigned topic. But before that, let me show you some picture. Okay. So all you have to do is just to um, guess what are the two words that appropriate for that picture. So as you can see in the four pictures, okay, there are organism. Okay, there are living organism, an area or a community where the living organisms live together. Okay, so what do you think are the words that appropriate for those pictures? Okay, very good. That is a community ecology or a ecological community. Okay, so what is an ecological community or community ecology? So let me read first the um, the text in the PowerPoint. So, ecological community is a naturally occurring group or a native animals, plants, and other organisms that are interacting in a unique habitat. So, it means in ecology, community is a group or association of a population of two or more species that interacting together at the same geographical area and at the same time. Okay, so it also stated here that ecological community investigate the factors that influence biodiversity and community structure and the distribution abundance of the species. Okay, so here in the Philippines, bakit tayo walang penguin? Okay, we don't have penguin because of the weather pattern of or our climate. Okay, penguin cannot live in in a warmer temperature. Okay, except except if that penguin has um, the fat, okay, that allow them to live in a warmer weather. Okay, because there are some penguin that cannot live in a warmer temperature, but there's also some penguin that can live in a warmer temperature. But most of the penguins are mostly found or can live in a cold weather like Antarctica. Okay, another example is the camel. Okay, camel can only live, yes, they can only live in a desert. Okay, they cannot live in um, Antarctica because they don't have the ability to survive in a cold weather. Okay, okay, so since we talk about the interaction of the organism in a community, so let's talk about the um, how those organisms get their food. So in terms of food, organisms divided into two. Okay, we have the autotrophs and the heterotrophs. Okay, autotrophs are those organisms that produce their own food. Example of this is the plants. The plants uses sunlight to produce their own food through the process of photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is a process in which the green pigment uses water and carbon dioxide and with the presence of sunlight to produce water and glucose or food. Okay, and the second type of organism in terms of food, okay, is called the heterotrophs or heterotrophs. Okay, so heterotrophs are those organism or organism that eaten by other organism. Okay, so since we talk about this the flow of energy, so we also talk about the food chain and the food web. Okay, so food chain and food web are different. Okay, so when we talk about the food chain, it is a linear flow of energy and nutrients on a trophic level, or I mean from one trophic level to another. Okay, just for example, the plants. The plants are autotrophs. Okay? They produce their own food. And that is what we called also the producer. Okay, in a food chain, that is a producer. And we have also the consumer, in which they eat the organism in a producer, okay, or yung producer. And that's what we call the, di ba, consumer. Okay, consumer is divided into three. We have the primary consumer, secondary consumer, and tertiary consumer. Okay, primary consumer are also called herbivore. These are organisms who eats, okay, eats plants in order to survive. We have also the secondary consumer, or also called as the omnivore. This organism eats plants and the primary consumer. Okay, from the word omni means plants and animals. Okay, they eat plants and animals. And lastly is the carnivore. Okay, or this is the tertiary consumer. Carnivore, from the word carni. Okay, that organism eats other organism. Okay, or not, hindi siya kumakain ng plants, but only animals. Okay, and that is what we called the carnivore. Okay, so let's focus on the food chain. Okay, food chain is a one trophic level. Okay, just like for example yung kanina, yung grass. Okay, grass eaten by grasshopper eaten by mice or rat. Okay, rat eaten by snake, and the snake eaten by hawk or eagle. Okay, and there is a food chain. Okay, there is a food chain kasi pag ang eagle, mamatay yung eagle, the nutri and the yung body niya nagbe-break down, okay, and turns it into nutrients. Okay, since mapunta naman siya sa soil, okay, with the presence of the nutrients from that eagle or hawk, okay, and with the presence of sunlight and water, it helps the plants to grow, and that's the food chain occur. Okay, and another thing is what we call the food web. So let me read first the text in the PPT. So food webs are a graphical depiction of the interconnection among species based on the feeding relationship. So yung food web, it is the multitude of the food chain that interconnected at many trophic level. Okay, many trophic level. And kanina, sa food chain is only one trophic level to another. Okay, just for example, in the picture show in the PPT, as you can see, hindi lang siya one way. Okay, hindi lang one way yung cycle niya, but there are more than one trophic level. So that is the difference between the food web and the food chain. Okay, so when we characterize community, it is a group. Okay, it is a group of interacting species that inhabit a particular location at a particular time. So here's the big question. Why do communities not have the same number of species or the same number abundance of species? So this answer can be compared, and this comparison can be made among the communities that attributes, okay, using the species richness, species diversity, and species evenness. So let's discuss this one by one. So in terms of species richness, so let me read the PPT. Species richness is the simply is a simply number of species in a community. Okay, just for example, in the PPT, that in a community A there are 8 eagle and 4 dove. Okay, and in the other hand, in the community B, there are 11 eagle and 1 dove. So how many, or what is the species richness of the community A and the community B? So the answer is they both have the same species richness. Okay, there are 2 species richness in the first or in a community A, and 2 species richness in a community B. Okay, so that's simply the species richness. It is only the number of species in a particular community. So next is the species diversity. It is more complex and includes measurement of the number of species in a community and the abundance of each species. So this species diversity can solve, okay, it can solve by using the Shannon Diversity Index, or simply the letter H. Okay, or it has a formula of H which equals to the summation of, the negative summation of the proportion individuals, or PI, times the natural logarithmic. Okay, that is the symbol of that natural logarithmic is the ln, small letter ln, times the proportion of individual in each species, or the PI. Okay, so that is the formula on how to calculate the species diversity in that particular community. So I will give you some example of this species diversity later on. But before that, let's proceed in the third attributes, which is the species evenness. It is a description of it is a description of distribution of abundance across the species community. For example, here in the PowerPoint, okay, in the community 1, there are 4 different trees. Okay, there are a total of 16 different trees. So, for example, we have the mango trees. There are 4 mango trees. Okay, just to calculate the species evenness, just multiply the number of that particular species, or that particular tree, divided by the total number in that community, or the total number of tree in that community. And here in the example, there are 4 mango tree, divided by the total number, which is 16, which give you a 0.25, multiply it by 100, so that it will give you a 25%. And that is the species evenness of the mango tree in a community 1. Okay, all of those 3, since there are 4 different trees, and each tree has 4 number of trees, so that implies that there are 25% of each trees has that community meron. Okay, so let's proceed in the community 2. There are 4 different trees, and there are 1 mango tree, 2 yung parang Christmas tree, 11 trees yung abundant trees. Okay, so when we calculate again the species evenness, for example in the mango tree, just divide the number of that particular tree divided by the total number of that community. I mean total number of tree in that community. So 1 divided by 16 will give you let me calculate, a 0.06. Okay, so multiply that by 100, so it will give you 6%. And for the last example, this is includes all of the attributes in a community. Okay, so as you can see in the community 1, there are 7 blackbirds. There are there is one kiwi, one secretary bird, and one chickadee bird. Okay, in the community 2, there are 2 blackbird, 3 kiwi, 3 secretary bird, and 3 chickadee bird. Okay, so when we calculate the diversity, we should use the Shannon Diversity Index, or the letter H. Okay, so in the community 1, there are abundance of 10. Okay, just count how many organisms present in that particular community. Okay, so there are 10 in the community 1, and there are also 10 in the community 2. The species richness, or the different species present in that particular community, is also 4 in the community 1 and 4 also in the community 2. And the diversity, or the species diversity, there are 1 and 1.37. So how we calculate, or how that 1 and 1.37 occur? Okay, so let me explain to you. So here in the table 1, there is we write the abundance, the proportional individuals, and the and the natural logarithmic times the natural logarithmic times the proportional individual. So how we get the proportional individual? Just multiply. Okay, just divide the abundance divided by the total number of species, or of organism. For example, the blackbird, there are 7. Okay, 7 divided by 10, it will give you a 0.7. So that is the proportional individual. Then how we get the natural logarithmic? So just click the ln here, then kunin mo yung proportional individual, which is 0.7, then it will give you a 0.51. Okay, so next, that is the same process. Here in the community 1, it will give you the blackbird, it will give you a diversity, species diversity of 0.31, kiwi of 0.23, secretary bird of 0.23, and chickadee, which is also 0.23, and will give you a total number of -1. Okay, all of that are negative. The negative to lahat yung nasa the species diversity of each organism of the bird. Okay, so it will give you a -1, but since based on the formula, there is a negative summation. Okay, there's a negative side in the left side of the summation, so negative times -1, that it will give you a 1. That's why there is a diversity, or a species diversity in a community 1 in the community A of 1. And also in the community B, the same process. In blackbird, it will give you a species diversity of 0.32, negative 0.32, kiwi bird of negative 0.36, secretary bird of negative 0.36, and chickadee bird of negative 0.32. Then it will give you a total number of negative 1.37. Still, there is a negative sign in a summation in the left side of the summation. So negative times negative 1.37, it will give you 1.37. That's why that's why it indicates a positive sign in a species diversity, because it will always, okay, always yan siya positive, never yan siya magiging negative. Okay, so that's all. So my partner will discuss the species interaction. Okay, so that's all.
Okay, let's discuss species interactions. Species interactions within ecological webs include four main types of two-way interactions: the mutualism, commensalism, competition, and predation, which includes the herbivory and parasitism. In nature, no species exists in total isolation. All organisms interact with both the abiotic environment and other organisms. Okay, if the two species interact directly within a shared environment, they share a positive association or they coexist. And if interactions within an environment are mutually detrimental or tending to cause harm to both species, they share a negative association, meaning they do not coexist. Okay, what we discuss now under species interactions are the predation, herbivory, and parasitism. First is predation. Predation is a biological interaction whereby one organism, the predator, hunts and feeds on other organisms or the prey. It is because the predator relies on the prey as a food source. Their population levels are inextricably intertwined. If the prey population drops due to overfeeding, predator numbers will dwindle as intra-specific competition increases. And if the prey population rises, predator numbers will increase also as a result of the overabundance of a food source. Okay. In predation, one organism kills and consumes one another. Predation provides energy to prolong the life and promote the reproduction of the organism that does the killing, the predator, to the detriment of the organism being consumed or what's called the prey. Predation influences organisms at two ecological levels. At the level of the individual, the prey organism has an abrupt decline in fitness, as measured by its lifetime reproduction success, because it will never reproduce again. At the level of the community, predation reduces the number of individuals in the prey population. The best known examples of predation involves carnivorous interactions in which one animal consumes another. Think of the wolves hunting moose, owls hunting mice, or crows hunting worms and insects. Less obvious, carnivorous interaction involve many individuals consuming a larger one. Such group predation is common among social carnivores such as lions, hyenas, and wolves, and many more. Group predation also occurs with ants and social spiders. This is, however, only part of the picture. Seed consumptions can sometimes constitute predation. Seeds are considered organisms. Under ideal circumstances, seeds grow to become plants. However, consumptions of the seed kills the plants before it can grow, making seed consumption an example of predation. Okay, not all predators are animals. Carnivorous plants such as the Venus flytrap and the pitcher plants consume insects. Pitcher plants catch their prey in a pool of water containing digestive enzymes, whereas the Venus flytrap captures an insect between the two lobes of a leaf and seals the insect inside with digestive enzymes. These plants absorb nutrients from the insects as they become available during digestion. On a microscopic scale, protozoa and bacteria also consume prey organisms. They play an important role in maintaining population sizes in microbial communities, which promotes the diversity of microorganisms and contributes to a stable community structure. Predation influences the fitness of both predators and prey. Individuals must both feed and avoid being eaten to survive and reproduce. Okay, the predators exhibit traits such as sharp teeth, claws, and venom that enhances their ability to catch food. They also possess extremely acute sensory organs that help them to find potential prey. Consider the ability of raptors to spot potential prey from over a kilometer away. The acute sense of smell of mouse, the ability of owls to locate the mice by sound, the ability of pit vipers to sense body heat when tracking the prey, and the ability of bats and dolphins to echolocate. Predators catch their prey either by pursuing potential prey or by ambushing them. Organisms that give chase are capable of short bursts of speed. Those that lie in wait tend to be camouflaged to avoid detection. In similar manner, prey species exhibit traits that help them avoid detection or capture. Many such as leaf insects, moths, and a variety of frogs and small lizards and herbivorous mammals are critically colored to make them more difficult to see. Behaviorally, they praise after detecting the presence of a predator. This lack of movement helps them better blend in with their background and inhibits the ability of the predator to find them. But when predators venture too close, prey will take flight, running or flying to escape. When a chase ensures, prey will typically survive if they stay out of reach until the predator tires. Some species buy extra time by distracting the predator. Examples include moths that flash brightly colored hindwings, lizards that drop their tails, and insects larvae that describes life, such as actions surprise the predator and give the prey time to few extra moments to escape. Okay, when a predator chases after potential prey, the predator is running for its life. If the predator fails to capture the prey, it goes hungry, but it will not experience a large decline in fitness as a result of the interaction. In contrast, if the predator catches the prey, the captured individual loses any future opportunities to reproduce. This life dinner cycle sets up an evolutionary arm race between the two species according to Dawkins and Krebs of 1979. In this race, the prey experience strong selective pressure to evolve better adaptations to avoid being eaten. At the same time, predators must capture sufficient foods to survive and reproduce, and they too are subjected to selective pressure for traits that allow them to hunt successfully. Over time, this arms race leads to traits that enable prey to better avoid capture, whereas predators become better able to capture the prey. In contrast to the examples provided thus far, some prey exhibits bright coloration, such as aposematic coloration helps prevent predation by signaling to potential predators that the vividly colored individual is toxic. Toxins may be manufactured within the body as with the red spotted newt, or they may be acquired possibly via consumption of toxic plants as with monarch butterfly. Not all species that exhibit vivid coloration are truly toxic. Okay? Some had evolved patterns and colors that mimic those of those toxic species. Example of such is Batesian mimicry include the extraordinary polymorphic Papilio dardanus swallowtail butterfly in southern Africa and Madagascar. Females of this species occur in a wide variety of physical appearances, nearly all of which mimic the tasteful species of the Deidinos and the Amairis genera with which they co-occur. Another one is the herbivory or herbivory. Herbivory is the consumption of plant material by animals, and herbivores are animals adapted to eat plants rather. As in predator or prey interactions, this interaction drives adaptations in both the herbivore and the plant species it eats. For example, to reduce the damage done by the herbivores, plants had evolved defenses including thorns and chemicals. Scientists have identified thousands of plants' chemical defense compounds, including the familiar compounds such as the nicotine and the cocaine. To maximize nutrient intake, many herbivores have evolved adaptations that allow them to determine which plants contain fewer defensive compounds and more high-quality nutrients. Some insects such as the butterflies have chemical sensors on their feet that allow them to taste the plant before they consume any part of it. Mammalian herbivores often use their keen sense of smell to detect bitter compounds, and they preferentially eat younger leaves that contain fewer chemicals. Okay, the last is the parasitism. In parasitism, an individual organisms, the parasite, consumes nutrients from another organism, its host, resulting in a decrease in fitness to the host. In extreme cases, parasites can cause disease in the host organisms. In this situation, we refer to them as pathogens. We divide parasites into two categories: endoparasites, which live inside the body of their host, and ectoparasites, which live and feed on the outside of the body of their host. Example of endoparasites includes flukes, tapeworms, fungi, bacteria, and protozoa. Ectoparasite includes the ticks and lice, plants, protozoa, bacteria, and fungi. Plants and animals typically act as hosts. In most situations, parasites do not kill their hosts. An exception, however, occurs with parasitoids, which blur the line between parasitism and predation. The best known parasitoids include several species of wasp, which immobilize but do not kill a host by stinging it. The female then carries the host to a burrow where she lays eggs within the host's body. After the larvae hatch, they consume the living tissues of host, eventually killing it. Entomogenous fungi also act as parasitoids. They infect the bodies of insects either through the mouth while foraging or by penetrating the outer cuticle of the insect's body. Spores circulate inside the host, whose body provides the nutrients needed for fungal growth. Eventually, the fungal load becomes too great for the host, and the insect dies. The major distinguishing difference between parasitoids and predators is that the parasitoids feed on living tissues, whereas the predator kills its prey before or in the process of consuming it. Parasite transmission. For all parasites, the host exists as an island of habitat, but the island lives for a finite period of time, and the parasites must find a new host before the existing one dies. Transmission to a new host can happen either directly or through a vector. In direct transmission, the parasites moves from one host to another of the same species without an intermediate organisms. In vector transmission, an intermediate organisms, the vector transfers the parasite from one host to the next. Okay? Number 1, victim is bitten by infected mosquito. Mosquito, example sa mosquito. Mosquito injects protozoites into human. Number 2, the parasites develop in the liver. Then next, the parasites finish maturation in the red blood cells and release gametes. Next, the mosquito takes blood including the parasite gametes. And the last, fertilizations and development of zygote happens within the mosquito vector. Many endoparasites have a complex life cycle that involves two hosts. The parasite must spend time involved to complete its life cycle. Take for example, protozoans parasite Plasmodium, which causes malaria. Plasmodium must spend time in humans and in an Anopheles mosquito to complete its life cycle. The mosquito acts as a vector transferring Plasmodium from infected humans to uninfected individuals. Additionally, the mosquito acts as an intermediate host. When a female mosquito ingests blood containing Plasmodium, some of the red blood cells contain gametes, or the eggs and sperm of the mosquito. In the mosquito's gut, the gametes come together to form a zygote, the development of which result in sporozoites. It is the life stage that can then go on to infect a new human when the mosquito feeds. Okay. For the summarization, the antagonistic interactions include the predation, herbivory, and parasitism. These interactions are complex, with predators consuming herbivores, plants and animals infected by parasites and occasional disease outbreaks. Predation, herbivory, and parasitism exist along a continuum of severity in terms of the extent to which they negatively affect an organism's fitness. Herbivorous, predatory, and parasitic interactions among organisms within communities regulate population sizes by preventing any one population from becoming overly abundant. Each type of interaction becomes more likely as the population size of the food source increases. Thus, this interaction size of food source are essential to maintaining the diversity of organisms that make up an ecological community. Each of these interactions can alter the balance of the food web, and removal of any part of the web can have a drastic impact of the community. And that's all. Thank you.